And we're back, Stripe Show podcast on a Tuesday. I'm your host, Travis Fulton. Good to be back in Florida, in the studio, back in the saddle with you here as we missed last week, Keith. I was all over the country last week trying to get back from Montana. It was snowing. We had fog. We had all the above winter weather, and I couldn't get out of there. And then I finally did, and I got to the PGA show, and it just was a mess. So I said, let's bag it. But I'm back in warm Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida now, and ready to talk some golf with my man Keith Stewart, who's on site at one of the best properties in the game, Pebble Beach. I missed you, buddy.
Yep.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. The PGA show was good last week. I can report in there was a huge buzz going on down there. Still not enough betting talk for my liking, but we're getting there.
Yeah.
I think of us as the tip of the spear, and people are paying attention to what's going on here. And it's tough to win in 2024 with 4 long shots. Really kind of sending the PGA Tour in a tailspin. But hey. We have a signature event. This seems like the unofficial start to the season. Everyone's a little bit on pins and needles out here because we'll get into it in a second. But the forecast, 9 of the 10 of the official World Golf Ranking are here. 18 or 19 of the top 20. I don't know. Terrell Hatton's name's still here, but haven't seen him. And let's get into it.
Wow. So Terrell Hatton's still listed to play.
Yeah, Hayden Buckley would like that to change. He's the first alternate, but I don't know, man. It's so typical Live that we have no idea what's happening.
Exactly. Well, I mean, just for PGA Tour for that matter. I mean, where are we at right now? I wanted to ask you. You're out there on site and people, moving around and a little chatter right now about this third-party influx of money coming in, the Fenway Sports Group, some other individuals that might be a part of that. Anybody like that likes golf, that has a lot of money, wants to invest. It sounds like there's, 2-3 billion maybe coming from this group into the PGA Tour. That's a separate entity of, PIF, right? Which is the group that runs Live. Where are they? Are they going to be putting money into it? How is that all going to play out? I mean, there's just still so many questions, and it feels like a lot of the momentum is, there's going to be an influx of money coming in, whether it's from this third party group and or PIF, but then Live and PGA Tours still operate on their own, which it's like, well, what good does that do for the fragmentation of the sport? Great that there's more money involved and the guys can get even more money for what they're playing. But what about the fragmentation of the sport? How do we start bringing that together? Because to me, that still is the single issue. Any chatter out there on where this thing's going to land, maybe by week's end or into February?
Well, I tell you, there hasn't been a lot of talk starting all fall, even at the biggest events in the fall. There hasn't been any talk or any information like this, and things are really percolating, right? Which leads me to believe where there's smoke, there's fire. All the guys, SI, Golf Channel, AP, they're all buzzing. Their phones are buzzing. Things are happening. I don't think that's quite how people expected it to play out, but it seems as if all 3 parties are on the same page. They've been talking a lot lately, and I get the sense from the people involved, from the player side, that they think there's going to be some sort of resolution where they're all going to be playing in the same place or have the ability to play in the same place before this year is over, which is, I don't think that's anything anyone would have ever imagined, that John Rahm might be able to play in the Memorial, let's say, and that might be a little bit of stretching it, but I think that things are going to marry up a little bit quicker. I think that Live is still going to continue to be Live. I mean, it cracks me up. I get asked a million questions about this, and I'm not a beat reporter. I'm a golf betting analyst. And,
Right.
People ask me all the time, they're like, what's John Rahm's team? Don't know. Go check the website. It's not there. Like John Rahm, 500 million. He's not even on their website, right? They start on Friday, just Friday.
Right.
That's okay. Adrian Moronk, gone, but no announcement, if Terrell Hatton's in Mayakoba or he's at Monterey, nobody knows. I mean, like, you would think you'd be proud and excited, like a dad running out of the delivery room or something, be like, hey, I had a boy, I had a girl, His name's Travis. Like
Yeah.
we get like these random, like totally crazy, like social media posts that the live bots can all then like attack and promote and do whatever. But like at the end of the day, I think that we understand more of what's going to happen with this framework than we do what's going to happen on Friday at Mayakoba. To be
Hmm.
honest, it's crazy out here.
It
It's
is.
like it's just I don't know. It's like I don't even know what to say sometimes, but I definitely there is definitely smoke out here, and I would not be surprised if on and around these next three big events that the PGA Tour takes the attention and they make some sort of announcement. Maybe Genesis the week after the Super Bowl, or maybe this week when we're in between the football playoffs and the Super Bowl. That makes kind of some PR sense to me.
Well, you said it's crazy out there. It's crazy with these winners. I mean, you look at these first four events: Chris Kirk 200 to 1, Grayson Murray 400 to 1, Nick Dunlop 300 to 1, Matthew Pavon 125 to 1. I mean, my goodness. Given the landscape, look, I'm all for the story. I think the Nick Dunlop story is a terrific one. I think Grayson Murray story is a terrific one. I think the continued resurgence of Chris Kirk is a terrific one. I mean, there's certainly some tentacles that you can pull on there, but look, at the end of the day, given the landscape and the competition the PGA Tour has faced, I don't think that's quite the way that they would like to have it scripted as
No.
far as the four guys that they want in the winner's circle, but that's what it is. I saw Jason Sobel at the PGA show, and I went over and talked to him. We were just kind of giggling, like, "Hey, did you have Chris Kirk 201? No. Did you have Grace? No, I didn't have him either. Not it's like no one's had these guys to this point in the winner's circle. So it's been tough from the landscaping perspective. But look, our audience is here to look ahead, and that's what we're going to do. And we've got an elevated event, folks, on our hands. Pebble Beach, AT&T. Pebble Beach Pro-Am. I am excited for this event for the first time in a long time. I kind of vented last year to you about this event and how I feel like it's gotten very tired. And it's unfortunate because it's at the most beautiful place, arguably in the country, when it comes to a golf course. Certainly one of the most historic. Number 7, the par 3, might be the most photographed hole in the world. 18 speaks for itself. If 7's 1, 18's probably 1A. And so it's a fantastic place. So much history there with the US Open, the PGA Tour, et cetera, et cetera. The women's US Open last year.
Yes.
And so we go there now. It's elevated event. You've got Rory there. You've got Justin Thomas there. You've got Scotty Scheffler there. And what's crazy is these guys, most of these big names haven't been here at all over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years at all. And so they're coming back to play Pebble Beach, which is fantastic. We're here to handicap it. You know the course. You're on site. Give the audience what in the hell we're looking for a kind of player this week to win. And let's stay above that 125 to 1 because that's where it's probably going to be.
Well, hey, before the comments blow up, most of them have been here in 2019, but that was June, not February. They
Right.
have not come in February to play this place. They were here for the U.S. Open in 2019, but overall, the big story this week, before I even get to the guys and the format change and the amount of money that's on the line, is that the weather up here is out of control. I mean, there's a maelstrom on Monterey that's coming. And I mean, tomorrow I doubt there will be one practice round played tomorrow. It's supposed to rain over 1.5 inches and blow like 30 miles an hour. It's supposed to rain all 4 days. Last year, Justin Rose, he won on a Monday. They're going to have their struggles again this year. It's such a shame that this event that was on life support is now all of a sudden is just like under siege from the weather right here. And the whole West Coast has been for much of the winter. The golf courses were soft to begin with. They expect another 3 to 4 inches of rain during this week. It's nice today. It's overcast, but it's cool. The average temperature, the highs this week are going to be in the mid 50s. So it's going to be cool and damp. The first 2 days you get Spyglass Hill and you get Pebble Beach. Both of them are exposed to the elements. Those first 6 holes there at Spyglass go right out to the ocean, to the Pacific Ocean. Of course, obviously we have the iconic setting of Pebble Beach. That is exposed to the elements. And this thing's really going to be a mutter's test. It's going to be a test of fortitude more than anything else. We get to the board. I'm looking for guys that like to get dirty. They like
Yeah.
to get ugly. Guys that play golf ugly and they still find a way to score. But before we get there, we're going to see the AMs for 2 days. We're going to see 2 different courses for 2 days. We go to Pebble. I'm excited that this is a major championship venue, and we're going to get some major championship players here.
Yep.
Experience is a big deal, though. And the last thing I'll say is, as we kind of lead into the betting board, is that every winner since 2006 has had a top 21 finish or better prior to winning. So that means that they're here. So yeah, Rory played her in 2018, but Scotty only in that 2019 Open. Xander, no experience. I mean, it's like,
No
none in February. It's like, it's crazy to me that all these great players are here at this great place. And it's, we're looking at the guys like Mav McNeely and talking about them because they've had so many good finishes here, or Kashmir Keith or players of that nature. And it's like, oh wait,
Tom
Sanders,
Hoagie.
Yeah, Tom Hoagie, like the Matt Kuchar. I mean, like we're throwing out these crazy names, and I think that's
Nick
part
Taylor.
of that's part of the experience factor, but it's also part of what we've been conditioned so far. 4 straight weeks of long bombs coming in. I don't think that's ever happened.
Right.
While we've all been betting golf. And I think Tiger Farmers used to be the official start. I think you're going to see this is the official start to the season. These next 3 weeks are a big deal, and it's hammer time. And I can't wait to get into all this.
Just got an email from Live Golf. Legion 13 unveiled as LIV's golf's first expansion team with the signing of your boy, Terrell Hatton. It's official. Terrell Hatton's not going to be there. Email just came out.
Terrell Hatton has been a great pick this week.
Yeah,
you talk about skill sets, right?
Yeah.
You got to hit Hayden Buckley, happiest guy in the outside the media center right now. Yeah. You got to hit the fairway, right? This is the lowest average driving distance on tour. So what does that tell you? Well, we're playing at sea level. It's usually cool here. And 283 is tour average. So you're 15 yards under. So these guys are playing to positions. And then from there, it's an approach fest, and you're putting on Poana to the small screens on tour. So let's get into it. Who can do that?
Let's see. All right. I mean, you got your usual suspects on the top of the board here. Before we get there, though, let's you know what? Let's go to our first look. You ready?
Yeah.
You ready? You're gonna have us lead us off. Here we go. Take us.
Boom. Mad Max. Max Homa.
Oh, okay.
That's where I'm going. That's my
Max
man.
Homa.
Yeah. 13 Corey. He's got 6 wins on tour, 4 in California. His last 3 starts here, all top 15s. He's good on Poana. He went to Cal Berkeley, so he knows he knows the climate up here. He's played a bunch here. And I think the guy's a mutter. I think he likes to get down and dirty. I watched him play 2 years ago when they moved the Wells Fargo to TPC Potomac in early May, and it was miserable like this. It rained every day. It was 50 degrees, and he won that event. And there's a couple guys on that leaderboard that are here again this week, and those are the types of guys that are grinders. And his ball striking's on point. Max he's got extra confidence from the Ryder Cup. For me, I think if anyone's going to break the streak, it's California kid Max Homa. That's where I'm. There you go.
He's got to clean up a few of those short missed putts, that he had last week, which he certainly can. I've got some, look, I've got you some stuff here because I figured we might talk about Max here a little bit. Check this out. Now, not many have this info. Not many, are going to break it down quite like this. You talk about the improved iron game, the improved wedge play. So I spent some time with his coach, Mark Blackburn, who's like the #1 ranked coach right now in our industry.
Yep.
And he shared some really good insight with me on what Max did. And you can see there, old Max on the left, new Max on the right. Very different in the way that shaft is organized. And I think very different in getting the club face a little bit more square on the right. You can't see the face on the left. It was a touch more open, but on the right, that shaft on plane. That club head just slightly left of the hand. Slightly. That's not laid off, folks. That's clean right there.
Yeah.
Now, interesting enough, and this is something that we talked about last week, as far as shaft lean is concerned with Taylor Montgomery. And Max kind of went down the same path here in his improvement with his wedge play. Got
All
things
right.
more organized as I showed you going back, shaft on plane, face more square, impact. Look at the picture on the right, shaft more forward than where it was on the left. He's definitely more on top of it. He's not hanging back as much. So these are the real changes that, Max Homa has taken on over the last 2 or 3 years that I think has propelled him into a much improved wedge player. And I think has propelled him into a much better ball striker altogether. Organizing the shaft in the face, more shaft lean, I think very similar to what we're seeing with Taylor Montgomery. So I like it. I think that's a good pick. Now, for me, my first look, I'm going to probably surprise you here a little bit. I liked what I was seeing with Justin Thomas. I like it.
Whoa.
You talk
Whoa.
about a mutter.
Whoa.
You talk about a mutter. You talk about someone who's not afraid to get down and dirty and get in there and get going. Justin Thomas is not afraid. I've liked what I've seen. Fifth at the Fortinet, third at the American Express.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You don't even know what to say?
I don't. I honestly don't. I mean, there's a million guys that I mean, did you not hear me? 2006, every winner, prior experience. What do we got from JT?
Well,
What do we
he
got?
was
Wait,
there.
what do we
He
got?
was there at the U.S. Open. He was there at the U.S. Open. The American Express, he was third. I like it. I think,
All right.
JT, here's the thing. Here's the thing about JT, and I know this is surprising you a little bit. It's surprising me. I'm going on a little different chart. It hasn't been, just in case you haven't seen in the last 4 weeks, it hasn't quite exactly panned out the way that we all thought it would to this point.
True.
So
True. Guilty as charged. Yep.
JT is a confidence player. JT is a streaky player. JT
Yep.
gets it going. JT
Yep.
doesn't matter where he's at in the country. JT is a grinder. And it's like
Yep.
JT's getting it going right now, folks. I can see it. The confidence is building. The driver's improved. The iron's improved. His putter's improved. Like, look, 16, 17, 18 under here to win. One of the best players in the world getting confidence. I'm going there just because it doesn't make sense right now. Nothing makes
All right.
sense in golf. Nothing. None of it. Like PGA Tour Live doesn't make sense. These 4 guys that have won to this point doesn't make sense. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to go here. This is probably what he's expecting. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm going there because that doesn't make any sense. And I'm going to try to make sense. And so hopefully it doesn't make sense. So JT will win by 2 on Sunday.
It's your first click, so I'm gonna let it go. But
All right.
had he come out a little bit later, man, the rocket launcher would be fired back at you on that one.
Here we
But,
go.
hey,
So we're going to go to the top of the board here real quick, and then I'm going to let you steer us because it's time for an intervention here. Well, not an intervention, but it's just time for, it's time for like, my God, what is going on with, Scheffler. I mean, these changes, right? It makes sense, but Keith, it's not getting any better. His putting is not getting any better, and I thought it was going to get better. Now, this isn't, and look, I've been transparent. You go back to the podcast in the previous, and I've talked about the changes that I would have made. I did a whole podcast on it, and I was encouraging him to go back to what he used to do. You can go check that out. But he went down this path, which is wholesale changes. Makes sense.
yeah.
But to this point, spade to spade, it's not working. His putting hasn't improved. And so, Scotty Scheffler, I'm getting concerned because I picked you to win a lot this year, and I need this damn club to pick it up a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I would lean away from JT on is the same thing with Scheffler. The putter has to work here. It just has to work. And
It's gotten better though. At least JT has shown some signs here now. I mean,
well, the thing with JT is that he's definitely on a momentum rise. He's climbing. He's on the hockey stick, right?
Yes.
He's like he's getting ready to make a little shoot up. I think I totally agree with you there. Scotty, the real measure, because the weather's going to be wild this week and everything. The real measure will be next week when he's the 2-time defending champ, right? Can he putt at a place where he's obviously very comfortable? And if we don't see something there, then come Genesis when we're doing this again, and I'm like in the
Intervention is needed.
yeah. I don't know what to tell you because I
There is
mean at
going to be
this
an
point
intervention.
it's like the definition of insanity
It is.
because
Well,
I
it's
mean
not though. But it's not because he changed. He changed his setup completely with Phil Kenyon. And look, you just got to call it what it is. Like it looks good. I think there were some early returns there in the beginning, and I liked it, but it still hasn't flipped the switch here to anything. The guy's still losing 2 or 3 strokes with the flat stick, um, and
all right.
so does he stay with it or does he go back to how he used to putt, which is where I would have went, and I showed you the difference in what he was doing at the end of last year versus when he was making everything and winning every. All right, let's move on. Let's okay, that's enough with Scotty. Like that just
I
I'm concerned. I'm concerned.
it it yes or no? Is it a physical problem or a mental problem? Which one
Well,
is it?
I mean, look, I,
Come
I
on,
think that's
just
where I think now it's becoming mental because I look
becoming
at yeah,
mental.
I think it. Well, but let me explain. Like, I think when you go back to what he was doing right at the end of last year, it was
Yeah,
his old setup, and I showed you in the stroke the differences versus what he used to do. Right, like he used to have a little more shaft lean. The putter head would finish lower. Kind of felt like he was hitting down on it more, and then when he started to struggle, you saw it was the same setup, but the putter head was swinging up more, and the left elbow was giving way, and all those things. I broke that down. And so I think to me, it'd have been like, okay, same setup, maybe a little tweak here or there, but just, kind of change the perception of the stroke a little bit, like hitting down on it more, lower finish. Now he's changed everything. So now it's like new grip, new posture, new
yeah.
form alignments. Everything's changed, and he's not making putts. And so now it's like I think you kind of get lost in between. It's almost like I always use this analogy. It's like when you make wholesale changes, Keith, and sometimes it's needed. It's riskier. You start walking up this bridge, right? And you're like, okay, I'm going up this bridge. Oh, my grip's new. Okay, my forearms are new. My posture's new. My ball position's new. Everything's new. I'm walking up this bridge, right? Pretty
Yeah.
soon you get up to the bridge and you look back and you're like, I can't see where I came from. Like I can't see that far anymore, right? And it just feels like you kind of get caught in the top of the bridge, right? And you're like, man, you're looking back and you're like, man, I can't even remember what I used to do, and yet you can't even look down the other side yet because you're just kind of floating in space, and that's what happens, and that's when I think it starts to become mental. Now he could very well work himself out of this, and it happens. Maybe he needs a little more times, a few more reps, and he'll start walking down the other side of the bridge. It's just interesting. Number one player in the world, wholesale changes, which I told you it's risky. We'll see what happens. All right, so other guys up top there. Rory, Vic, Xander, Cantlay, Spieth, Morikawa. Like those are, a lot of these guys coming back for the first time, right? In US Open.
Yeah.
Where are you at? I mean, Hovland's had a little history here. Schauffele, kind of doing his things, right? Kind of hanging out there in the top 20. He makes his run up to the top, then he gets near the top, and then he kind of falls back down a little bit. Any of those guys ready to win? Cantlay's been kind of a mess to this point.
I think there could be some science behind Victor winning here in 2018. You got to remember in that USAM, they need 2 golf courses. The second golf course was Spyglass.
Mm-hmm.
So at the top of the board, I mean, each one of them, there's a story there, right?
Yeah.
And one that like keeps them from winning. And that's not the reason that like 100-to-1 winners keep winning, but like Rory, like if you take away the driver, that's his separating skill. Yes, he's vastly improved his wedge game, but that's his separating skill. Scott, the putter on POA. Victor, the best long iron player in the world, right? And we're not talking about off the tee. Like you're taking away like, their magic weapons, Xander, the guy couldn't be any more well-rounded for everything but putting. And like the guy used to be a great putter. I don't understand what's going on there. I mean, you could see it with like Finau and Scotty that there's like issues going on there. Like you could see it through the TV screen. You could feel it. You could sense it, the anxiety. But like I don't get it with Xander, and it's just not clicking for some reason. For me at the top of the board, I have one question and one question for you only. If you're with me on Max, right? Because we can't fit them all on our betting card. Do you want Patrick Cantlay or do you want Jordan Spieth? Which one do you want?
Man, Well, I was big on Cantley early. I mean, Cantley feels safer. Spieth feels like he's got the higher ceiling. We're talking about a mutter. I'd go Spieth.
Yeah. I think Cantley's equally tough, but Jordan scores ugly.
Yeah.
And Jordan has played
Yeah.
here more often.
Yeah,
And
we need a mutter. We need to shoot 68 when it looks like 72.
oh yeah. And I'm telling you, the weather this week,
Yeah.
it does not look good. It
Yeah.
does not look good. So at the top of the board, all those names, it's we have this wonderful signature event, 18. Now that we have official word from Liv. Just an email to you though. Did that were you BCC'd on that, or was that
It
direct
might
to
have been
you?
just
Because
sent to me because they like for me to break all the news because I'm a huge Live supporter. So it's yeah. But I'm glad that we could break that news, early. Is this the least attractive the top of the board has ever looked, considering that nobody comes to Pebble Beach because nobody wants to play in the Pro-Am format and watch Larry the Cable Guy and Bill Burry's, deal that we've been, falling asleep
yeah.
to on the couch on a Saturday afternoon for the last 15 years.
Hey, 6 of the last 10 winners here. Again, it's the Pro-Am. It's not this elevated signature field, but 6 of the last 10 winners in a weaker field have had odds of plus 3,500 or
Yeah.
less,
I kind of throw it
right?
all out. I honestly, I throw it all out this year. It's just the big boys are here now.
Well,
This
that
is the
favors what
big
I
boys are
just
here.
said.
I know.
That
Well,
that 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 favors what I just said. Okay, so you love for when I steer and I go down the board. Okay,
yeah, I
so
want take us to the middle of the board because
you
the top of the board is not
you
happening.
want you want Spieth over Cantley. I
Yeah.
agree. All right. Let's go a little further down the board. You're going to hear wonderful stories about Tommy Fleetwood, how he grew up in, England and he could play in bad weather.
Yep.
You're going to hear wonderful stories about Jason Day's history here. Forget that he missed the cut badly last week in Torrey. You've
Yep.
got JT Poston. You've got names here. I
Hogard
have a
played good last week.
oh, oh,
That's where you're going, isn't it?
oh, steal my thunder, right?
Oh man, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, like okay, forget it. Here's what I'm gonna say. Forget all those guys.
Okay.
Hogard. Okay, two
I
reasons
knew it.
on Hogard.
I
Right?
knew it.
Two reasons on Hogard. And again, he doesn't have the experience there. So call me what you want. But for a bomber, extremely great wedge player and putter.
Yeah.
Right? That combination, and he's playing confidently right now. This kid's for real.
Yep.
I think at that number that we're looking at, I think, right at 50-1, I think that's a fair play. We would love it to be higher, but guess what? What did he do last week, folks? Some of these other guys, and coming from where he's coming from, I feel like he wants to battle. It's a big, strong, tough kid. Like I feel like he's going to get in the trenches for us, and that wedge game is elite. And you need a wedge game here. I mean, if we didn't break it down enough earlier, folks, everybody hits to the same spot in the fairway. Everybody does. Doesn't matter how long you are. Use the 8th hole at Pebble Beach. There's a cliff there. Okay, maybe Jordan Spieth hits it 5 yards further than everybody, but they're all playing from the same spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when they go to that spot, who is the best from basically 75 to 125, 135 yards and in to the green, and then who can putt on Poana? That's what you need to do this week. I talk about this all the time, how wedge play isn't a differentiating skill in most weeks because it's a requirement on the PGA Tour to be good with your wedge. If you are great with your wedge this week, you will separate from the field. And 14 of the 20 par fours they're going to play over the two courses are under 430 yards. When you're Nikolai Hogard with that wedge, you have a chance. And at 50-1, I get excited about that.
Yeah, that's a good play. I circled them too. I knew I could just sense this is where you were going to go with the middle of the board. And I think it's a great call. And I agree 100%. You start looking at 75 to 125, those distances, the dude is so good. One of the best in the field. And it's a good segue into, as we get into the middle of the board, is Eric Cole, who's a guy that we've thrown around. And this is another guy that is really elite from this, and a guy that this shorter distance off the tee might play a little bit, into his, a little bit more towards him. I think this is a good spot for him as well if you want to sprinkle a little bit down the board. But before we get too excited about, the middle of the board, I am going to have an intervention, and it is going to be on this guy right here. Okay, because look,
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh man. Do I have to look at this? I mean, I
I
watched it all last weekend.
look,
You know, the
look,
I wrote to fade him, and everyone's like, "Oh, come on, his record and everything." What happened on Sunday?
what is going on with the picture on the left, Tony? I mean, what is going on? Like, you look at the way he's putting right now this year and how low his hands are. Look, I'll go. You can do that in the full swing, and he does. And look, I think his swing looks great, by the way. It looks lengthened out. Whew.
Yeah.
I mean, he hit a couple iron shots yesterday or last week. And I rewind it and listened to it again because it was so pure. Like, it was unbelievable, the sound, right? And and he's got those low hands, and his swing looks lengthened out, and I love it. And then you get to the green, and you're like, what in the hell is he doing? Why are his hands that low? Why is his right forearm that much higher than his left? Why is the toe of the club off the ground 3 inches? That's nothing the way he putted his best with when you go back a few years. Very upright. Look at the left wrist, completely opposite. It's unhinged. Now, he's had a variation of the right hand. He hasn't always done like this kind of pencil grip. He, sometimes he's went a bit more conventional, but Keith, he's always been more upright like this, more like Steve Stricker. And so he's like, hey, I think I'm going to make a tweak. Yeah, what are you thinking, Tony? I think I'm going to go completely the other way and lay the shaft down about 35 degrees. Like, what are we doing? Like, I don't get it. And I don't get it. Like, what are you doing? It looks awful. He's got a hit in his stroke. I mean, the reality is like, if the guy just had his head above water at all, as good as his ball striking is. I don't know. I'm a Tony Finau fan. I see these things, and it drives me absolutely berserk.
I think it provides a great PSA PGA moment for me, because you look at the left picture, and if you're an amateur that's watching this, and you look at you listen to what Travis just said. If you don't do things that match your body type, right, you are not going to reach your goals in golf. All right. Everything that's going on there in the left, other than I like purple as a color, has nothing to, it doesn't work. It just doesn't look like it works. Right. It doesn't look efficient. It doesn't look repeatable. Everything on the right looks like, well, hey, Tony's 6'4", he's 6'5". Okay, he's standing taller, right? He's got the putter shaft up taller. I mean, we're talking super basics here, folks. If you do things that don't look good in the mirror, they're not gonna come up with good results on the golf course. And I think your point's really well taken. I mean, this is why this poor guy, I mean, you can't get top 20 on him, numbers on him or whatever, but that's where he's gonna sit. This is why he's had these moments in his career where he just doesn't, the guy hits the ball beautifully. I mean, he absolutely.
Oh my god!
I mean, I'm here, Travis. I hear it all the time. I mean, when you walk by and you hear the acoustics,
it's unbelievable.
Like, there's like 5 guys on tour that hit it like that.
Yeah.
Literally 5 guys that hit it like that with that noise, right? That are out here right now, and he's one of them. And you just watch him, and it's, what's funny is that almost all of them are plagued with the bad putter, like a really bad putter, which is interesting. But let's move on. Let's move on. Now, anyway, you're talking about
my two. So
you're talking about.
I got a question for you.
All right,
I got a question for you. Okay, because I want you to either give me the heads up or thumbs up or thumbs down. Okay.
I'll do my best.
50-1.
All right.
Bo Hostler, is he ready? Is he ready? He's got a good history here. He's playing well. I see improvement in his game. I'm going to be doing some stuff on Bo's game here on my sites. Interesting enough, I actually caught up with his coach there for a while, was Dana Dahlquist. I talked to him on the phone this morning, and they split up a few months back, which I didn't know that. And so I thought Dana really had him on a good track, and Bo's been kind of tracking nicely. I like his game. He's done well here. Is he ready though to take the step with the big boy field and get a win?
Oh boy, I mean, you asked me. I'm going to go like that.
Okay.
Right now, is he a great DFS play this week? Is he a great
Yeah.
placement play this week? His short game, his putting, his history around this place, all the above, right?
Yeah.
But to win, I'm going thumbs down.
Okay.
I'm going thumbs down. Now,
So
you
go
go ahead.
ahead. Go ahead. No, go
No,
ahead.
I was gonna say you brought up Eric Cole,
Yes.
right? Which in
50,
many
55 to
respects,
1, 60 somewhere. Yeah.
yeah, in many respects, I'm gonna give you. To me, Eric Cole is like a poor man's Denny McCarthy, right? And Denny's sitting at like 80 to 1. If you like a guy like Eric Cole, I, I love Denny McCarthy this week.
Okay.
When you don't have to pull out driver all the time, you could play positional, reasonably good approach player, good short game. He's got good history there. I think he's got an 11th, and he's got his last 2 starts are like in the top 12. Um, he plays difficult situations well. Why does Denny McCarthy show up in US Opens, right? Like year after year. People are like, who is this guy? First of all, he's an athlete. If you went down, the top 100 in the official world golf rankings, he would be one of those guys that could be like a point guard at Kentucky. He could be a slot receiver for the Patriots back in the day. Like I firmly believe that about him. And I think when the conditions are this extreme, right? I think that it serves him well. He grew up in the Northeast in Maryland. He's played in conditions like this before. I was talking about that TPC Potomac before. He had a good week that week there. He was a hometown guy. And the putter, making putts inside 10 feet is crucial here. I was looking into this. Strange thing about playing Pebble, is that the winners here average like the differential is like 2.6 strokes over the last 10 years. Like margin of victory. So, like, there aren't close events here. It's not a week to bet a playoff, I guess is my point, right? I mean, Tiger won here by 15. It's obviously an extreme. But,
Yeah. Mhm.
the guys that get it done here over the course of 72 holes, they make a lot of putts inside 10 feet, and it distances them from the field. Who can do that? Bo Osler could do that, sure. Eric Cole could do that, right? Who's proven they could do it and compete against a signature event? Denny McCarthy. And at 80 to 1, because he's been intermittent lately to start the season, don't forget, he was good at RSM and he didn't play all fall. And then he came back at Century. Is Century a good fit for Denny? No, right? Like, this is a good fit golf course for him.
Yep.
He's proven that in the past. And I think, folks, it's going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly, right? I'm here. I am here, right? I can tell you it is already soft and it's going to blow. And it's like, I have like 3 more layers to put on before I go back outside today, right? Like this is a problem. And I think he's the type of guy that can contend here. And if you like Eric Cole, then I think a much more proven commodity is Denny McCarthy, and I'm going to go there instead.
Well, you don't have to convince me of Denny.
Yeah.
Because I've been waiting on Denny. I'm a little surprised though, because you were educating me, or I should say lecturing me on win equity this year. So I thought maybe you would kind of go different.
How's that worked out so far this year?
I know that's where I was gonna go. I was gonna go that you stole my thunder. Lecture me on win equity with those 4 names. That
come on. We had an amateur,
God.
right? We got 2 recovering alcoholics, an amateur, and then a guy whose nobody's name can even pronounce. I mean, like, that's why they call it the 4-day lottery, baby.
Yep.
Like 400 to 1 in 4 days. Yeah.
Denny's driver's been a problem. I don't know what's going on there. His iron game, I think his iron game has started to show signs. If you're into positive 8.2 strokes gained putting, his last time out, Denny's gonna get Denny will give that to you. Denny, I told him, he was on the pod and we were talking about his putting. And I said, you're just like, when I watch you putt, like, when I'm on site and I watch him in tournaments, I was like, you're just intimidating as all get out from the very beginning. The way you walk into your putt, approach it, set up and go. I mean, you just look like you know what the hell you're doing and you look, super confident. It's really interesting to watch, right? When you see, I mean, Denny's one of the best putters in the world. I mean, he's, Taylor Montgomery, Denny McCarthy, it's
JT Poston,
JT
Cam Smith.
Poston, Cam Smith. Yeah, I mean, it's just you watch him, and it's like that dude knows what he's doing. He's just so confident approaching it. Yeah, I would love to see Dennis McCarthy get that win. Yeah, of course, he's been close now a couple times. I think you bring up some valid points on a tough golf course because, look, minus 18, minus 19 is kind of where we've been. So do you think we'll be 15, 14? I mean, it's going to be soft, right? I mean, it's going to rain Wednesday. So
yeah, the wind it looks rough.
it's just,
And
okay.
keep in mind, you had 3 days. Yeah, you had a third weaker golf course, and you had 3 days or 4 days of amateur pins. So like the PGA Tour has to keep it somewhat, they can't just tuck every single pin when you have all these AMs in the field. That's why one of the reasons why the Amex becomes such a shootout is it because they're putting pins in places that they shouldn't be putting them for PGA Tour pros, especially like this field, right? So I think that, combined with the weather and what we're going to see from hole locations over the weekend, I think that if they get to 15, I think I'd be surprised. I think you're looking at like a 10 to 13. I mean, I think fourth place gets $1 million, right? If you gave me 13 under par right now and I didn't have to play in all of this, I feel like I'd win at least $1 million this week. And it's just from what I'm seeing here. Now, if the weather drastically changes and the storm system moves away, which we're right on the coast, and it most certainly could, all bets are off on that. But like, if this thing stays the way it looks right now, Sunday it's supposed to be blowing like 30, and it's going to be 52 degrees, and it's going to be pouring rain.
Yep.
So, for me, I think where your head's at on that, I think you're going down the right road there from what I see here on site.
Let's get into a few things here. Let's get into some odds because this is probably where the winner is going to come from, based off the last 4 weeks. I mean, you got Justin Rose, the defending champ, at 70. Wyndham Clark, Chris Kirk won earlier this year. He's at, I see a lot of 80s on the board. Brian Harmon won the Open Championship last year. He's at 70. Adam Hadwin, Jaeger was close last week at 90. There's my boy Cam Smith. I see a few 80s and 90s on him out there. Man, his iron game has not been good. Surprising. I mean, his putting's been fantastic, and how I feel about Cam, but his iron game has not been good. There's Matthew. He won. Straka, Brendan Todd. I think's a guy that could, look, he could make some noise here. I'm not sure if he could win, but he'd be someone that I would look as a DFS play for sure.
Look at Fowler down there.
I know, right?
Seriously, that guy won.
I know. It's crazy. You start stretching the odds here a little bit. Like, I like what Taylor Montgomery's doing all of a sudden. Taylor Montgomery, I'm not going to pick him to win, but I'm proud of him. I told you at the end of last year, that dude needs to go figure out his irons. And you know what? I think he has. I think he has put the work in, similar to what I showed with Max. And I'm excited. I want Taylor Montgomery to turn into an upper third player that can win. I like watching him. That dude putts to the ocean. It's not even fair how good of a putter he is.
He's good. Well, I mean, his dad runs Shadow Creek. So, I mean, those are some of the toughest greens that Fazio ever made. So it doesn't surprise me if you grew up there that you'd be a good putter. Otherwise, you just quit the game.
Nick Dunlop. All the way down here, 100-1. What if he comes out and wins again? Turns pro, wins again.
Well, then he'd get 700 FedEx Cup points, which he didn't get 500 2 weeks ago. Thanks for playing. You don't get $1.5 million, and you don't get your FedEx Cup points, but that's okay. Who's
not comfortable with the lead, but is a very, very good elite player, or not elite, but is a very good player from Europe, is Thomas Dietrich. That guy's just not comfortable with the lead. He's just that you can see it. I like his game, and then he's right there in the lead. Thomas Dietrich is going to win, and it's like a completely different player. I mean, it looks like Lamar Jackson did in the AFC Championship game. Just all of a sudden, you're not the same person. You're that person, but you're not doing the same things. You don't look as smooth and comfortable. The game is moving a little too fast. Like he's got to get a little tougher on Sunday. but I like Thomas Dietrich.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody down
I
here.
mean,
If you had to stretch it and say, I mean, Nick Taylor, last 4 or 5 years, probably the best strokes gain in anybody in the field. Now, granted, a lot of these big guys haven't been here, but look, if you want to go past history and sprinkle a little on Nick Taylor down there around 70, 80 to 1, I don't think you'd get much pushback from that, would you?
I'm not going to bet these guys outright, but they're definitely going to be on my placement card. They'll be on my DFS teams. But the guys down here that I like that, that are over 100 to 1, I like Adam Hadwin when we're on POA. I also like him in tough conditions. I think his game kind of suits. The wedge accuracy, the putting, his ability to get around. I like Kashmir Keith here. He has a very strong history here. His playing partner in the amateur division is Josh Allen. I think they both have a chip on their shoulder, not just Josh Allen because of 2 weeks ago, but I also think because they came in second last year to that handicap discrepancy with Aaron Rodgers. I think that, they're going to be playing. I think, you're not going to throw elements at Josh Allen and say, hey, like this is going to bother you today that it's 55 and raining. The guy's a quarterback in Buffalo. So Kevin Yu is a wonderful ball striker and a great match for this golf course, but like his putting's never been great. You remember last summer, he was a great 6K DFS guy at all these different golf courses where you need to make a ton of, birdies with a wedge and everything. And it was like, but he's been putting better as of late. So I do like him down in this range. And I would say the other guy, I got to find him here. He's sitting down there just under 200 to 1 at 175 to 1. If you don't have Matt McNeely on your card at Pebble Beach, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Right? What are we doing? Thankfully he saved me a top 40. He did not have a good Sunday at Torrey, but he's back from his major medical. He's a great putter, good wedge player. He grew up here. He knows the golf courses. He's going to know how to play in this kind of wind and weather. One of the things that people don't realize about these places, they think they're next, so that they're in Florida where you are, right? And they're like, oh, I'm at the beach. Like there's the water, there's the sand, there's my house, right? Like there's cliffs here. Spyglass Hill is Spyglass Hill, right? Like there's a ton of elevation changes. You throw in the elements and everything, and you don't have the experience of like what goes how far. Like if it gets to Sunday and you've got to hit 7-iron on a 106-yard par 3 out on a peninsula at Pebble Beach, you would like to have known that you've hit that shot before because you played in those conditions, and Matt McNeely has. Can he win this thing? Probably not. But the number on a top 20 is going to be favorable. On a top 40 at 175 to 1 is probably enough to double your money. And he's definitely a great DFS play. So if I'm going down here and I'm looking for names, because you got Murderer's Row at the top, those are the names I'm pulling out for you.
Okay. I like that. I'm in on Adam Hadwin. I sprinkled a little there. I sprinkled a little there. He's 70, 80 right now, I think currently. I think that's a good played good last week or 2 weeks ago. He's the American Express. He had top 10, I believe. Yeah, American Express, he was 6th.
Yeah.
14th at the Century. I'm in on Adam Hadwin. The only name, I think you make some good points there. The only name I would probably, maybe you go down the board is a Brandon Wu. He was
good history
T2
there
last year. Good history. 150. Yeah. If you wanted to, spring a few bucks way down there and you had to pick someone, I think I would probably go Wu. And that's saying something because Griffin has played pretty well. Marcus Hubbard's hitting the ball very well. Just can't quite do enough with the putter. He's down there. Does he catch fire with the flat stick? Maybe.
Hubbard, good history there. Good California kid.
Yeah, California guy. Yep. I was just going to say. So, those are a few angles, right? Those are kind of some of the notes I made, down at the end of the board if you wanted to try to stretch it and keep this streak going. I'm in on the 150 to 1. I'm in on the 175 with Brandon Wu. And let's just keep this winning streak going of what has been no question. Just when you thought last year was bizarre, and then you roll into this year and you still don't have any answers, and you go Chris Kirk, Grayson Murray, Nick Dunlop, and Matthew Pavone.
I'm going to give Chris Kirk credit. Chris Kirk went to the University of Georgia. He's a dog. That guy can
I know.
play.
I know.
He's
I know.
he's
Yeah.
he's won
Yeah.
what 5 or 6 times on tour,
Yeah. That's
and
a
like
sixth
that
one.
was yeah, so like the reason he was 200 to 1 in that field was because of like it was 58 other guys that are
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
top 10 in the world. But like those other 3, give me a break.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got Ben on and Keegan in that playoff, and that guy makes a 30-footer. He didn't make 30 feet of putts all day in the final round combined,
Yeah.
and he makes that bomb. And then the next week, you have the amateur just takes down both JT and Sam Burns, and they fold like a cheap suit. Like
Yep.
it's crazy. And
It
then
is.
you've got Pavon the other day, just down there, just tamping grass down all over the place. I mean,
Woo.
whatever it takes to win, we're doing it.
Woo.
If you're 140 to 1, let's go.
That ball came out with a lot of spin.
From Kukulia. Come on. What are we talking about?
Wow.
Shut this thing down before I get going, because
All right.
I'll go off on that.
All right, go get yourself a cup of coffee, and an umbrella, and get into a safe spot. You're going to have a lot of time tomorrow, so pace yourself. Sleep in. I know you're probably on East Coast time a little bit, and just hit the snooze. Try to get yourself on West Coast time, okay? And because you're going to have a long day tomorrow with that weather coming in, and we'll be in touch here as the week goes on. This was good breakdown here. I'm excited. Look. I think when the schedule came out and I saw this was a signature event, I was very excited, because how can you not love Pebble Beach? I was exhausted on the format that it was. This tournament needs it. It deserves it. And I am really pumped that the best players are there and that we're rolling it. Look, the Pro-Am's great. And it's a celebration of the sponsors, right, of the PGA Tour. You got a lot of the executives there, which is great. And they can have their time Thursday, Friday. But let's clean the slate. Let's put the golf course on center display. Let's put the best players on one of the best golf courses. Let's have some weather. Let's have a primetime finisher on the East Coast. I'll pour myself a little glass of wine, and off we go. And we get ourselves a winner on Sunday, which is probably going to be, it's not going to be Tony Finau putting like that. We know that.
Poor Tony.
It's going to be Justin Thomas. We're going to have a mutter. He's going to be grinding. He's going to be coming his hats on backwards. And it's just, I can feel it. JT is on his way up. No one plays on momentum like him.
Your lips to God's ears,
Keith, are you on site next week?
Yeah, next 3 weeks. I mean, it's a big run right here.
Okay.
I'm on the road for 22 straight days.
Okay.
So, but don't worry. There's more than one Cashmere Keith in Monterey this week. All right. I'm prepared. So rain suit and all, I'm ready to roll, my friend. There's nothing quite like being on a Stripe show. Get me out of here. Let's go.
All right. Keith Stewart at Read the Line. See you next week. Nice.